Welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. I'm your host, James Gardner, certified athletic therapist, certified strength and conditioning specialist, yoga instructor, human being. This platform, for the pros, by the pros, anybody in the performance space, and beyond. Welcome here to share in the stories of professionals, experiences, journeys, learning along the way. It's a platform to connect, to network, and to be a part of a community that cares, with conversations that matter, experiences that resonate, and generate ideas, thought-provoking, organic dialogue, passionate pros. Brought to you as always by First Star Therapy, Mobility Tape, Epic, and Benchmark Athletics, in association with the Canadian Athletic Therapists Association. It's First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast. Thanks for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. So welcome to First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy roundtable brought to you by First Star Therapy and our primary sponsor, Mobility Tape. We're moving this week with our guest, Melanie Evans from Humber College. And before we get into her intro, just some quick housekeeping items. We are being recorded for the purposes of, saving the world one conversation at a time, relying on Mel to tell us how return to clinic is going to work and play in the college setting. And so we can all take notes on that. Please remember, questions and comments are welcome. Feel free to do so with the mic or with the chat box in a polite and recall that this is a public forum, so do so accordingly. Membership is available for athletic therapists, available through firststartherapy.com, and our sponsor Mobility Tape has once again extended their offer this week for the next 10 memberships to receive a roll of Mobility Tape, the only kinesiology tape with built-in heat activation. So here we go. This is session 34 of Let's Chat. We're moving this week again with Melanie Evans, and going to try this out and put this into podcast version here shortly as well. So for all of you listening in and watching, really appreciate you taking the time to be here. Mel, definitely appreciate you taking the time, carving it into your day to be our primary guest this evening. And Mel is a certified athletic therapist, registered massage therapist, contemporary medical acupuncture provider, registered kinesiologist, and a level 1 fascial stretch therapist. She graduated from Western University with a degree in kinesiology and obtained her certification in athletic therapy at York University. Melanie became a registered massage therapist in 2010 and completed the contemporary medical acupuncture program at McMaster University in 2013. She's been working at Humber College since 2009 and currently manages the athletic therapy clinic, high performance center, and fitness center for Humber's athletics program. Melanie is a support therapist with Canada Soccer's senior women's national team and has done a variety of national and international team travel. She's a volunteer on the ethics committee with the CATA and has been running a small private practice for the past 10 years. Melanie's passion for helping people heal and live a healthy and active lifestyle flows through her professional experience and her continuous ambition to educate about movement. Melanie is committed to finding the best course of treatment for each individual she works with and encourages her patients to play an active role in their own healing. I think that's an amazing summary. Mel, welcome again. Once again, we really appreciate having you on as a primary guest, and for everybody else that's here, this is going to be a great chat, lots of insight, lots of experience, and here we go. I'll let you say hi, Mel, and then we'll jump in.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I feel like I'm lucky to be a guest. There's been some pretty amazing previous guests that I tuned into, like Glenn Bergeron and Steve Lidstone. So thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, my pleasure. This is going to be a good one. Some big news, obviously, this week with you guys announced that your clinic's going to open back at Humber. But before we get to all of those big pieces that are more recent, can we jump into a little bit of how you got to where you are now and sort of where the passion started for you and how you got into athletic therapy and eventually made your way to your current position?
So I figure skated competitively for about 15 years, and my therapist was Gus Candilis. So when I was learning to do triple jumps, you basically throw yourself in the air and try to add a rotation. And so fell numerous times. And so I would see Gus for treatment. And he inspired me, and he's the reason I applied to only York for athletic therapy, and the main reason why I'm in this field. To be honest, he's been my mentor for the past, how long have I been certified? Since 2006. So it's thanks to him. Yeah, so that's basically the start.
Yeah, so that's I mean, that's kind of a common start in the practice, in that, you know, you get a little bit of experience with movement, or you get some really good experience with a therapist, and it really sparks something in you. And before we continue down your career path, like that's a thing that you do, right? At Humber, you house a bunch of internship opportunities, placement opportunities with both Sheridan and York, and I don't know if anywhere else, but definitely those two. How does that play into sort of your day to day, and does that inspire you to keep growing? Obviously, you have to do your best to educate, but at the same time treat. So, how does that play into your sort of your day to day at Humber?
Yeah, I mean, we're so fortunate to be able to take a number of students each year from both Sheridan College and York. And honestly, it's, you know, and I know my staff can say the same thing. It's part of the reason why we love what we do. You know, having the students there every day, not only do we teach them, but I feel like they teach me. They're teaching me to kind of mold with the times and change. And, you know, it's really fun to have them there and to see them grow. We definitely have like an open door policy to our students. We try to create an environment that's positive. We want people to kind of get excited to come to Humber for work. So that's our main goal. And honestly, it's the best part of what we do is having them there supporting us. But they obviously support us quite a bit, because we wouldn't be able to sort of run our department without them. So definitely a constant inspiration. And you know, this semester coming up is going to be very different from previous semesters. So a little tough coming into September with, you know, the option of potentially not having students. So we'll see how it goes. But definitely the reason I go to work every day is, you know, I get excited to work with the students. So
Yeah, I think that's awesome, and that space is so crucial in building our profession, and in building sort of like this integrated model that I hope everybody's working towards, where there's no longer sort of like borders and boundaries to break down, but everybody kind of collaborating and working together. And I know you guys have a great model where strength and conditioning and athletic therapy, there's a lot of crossover there, and we'll get into that certainly. But I just want to stay on this sort of student element, I guess, to start, because it's so crucial, right? Like, to have people who are willing to put in the time, and as the CATA changes and competencies are now sort of at the forefront, and how are we going to match these things? I mean, in a non-COVID time where we have in-person opportunities, I think it's crucial to have people like you that are willing to take on that role, and build it out for the students, at the same time as trying to run an operational clinic, right? Like, trying to service all the population that you need to. So, I mean, how do you balance that? I don't know. You don't have a formula, I don't imagine, but like, what do you do in sort of your day to day, and sort of your long-term focus to manage both sides?
yeah, I mean, I think at Humber we're very fortunate, because if we bring to our management team, you know, that we need a bit more time to support our students with the new protocols, they're pretty receptive to that. Meaning they would adjust, sort of getting more support from a staffing perspective. I think one of the biggest things is that our students are not there to do our jobs for us, that they're there to support us. And I think that's one of the biggest things to remember. I think that's sometimes the mistake we make when we bring on students, is we use them to do our jobs when really we're there to mentor them. And that's sort of the change in the education now, is for us to be there to support them more so than in the past. So we're lucky enough that our staffing can increase when we have those demands for education. So we're excited, you know, as to where it's going to go. I know it's going to be more demanding for us, but I do think that at Humber especially, they're going to support that, and hopefully we can continue to do that moving forward.
Yeah, no, I think it's awesome, and it is like, it is shifting the focus a little bit, you know, and not to say that this happened when you were in school or when I was in school, but, you know, at certain times it's nice to have interns, it's nice to have students, but then it gets the leash gets let out a little bit, and we kind of get away from what we're supposed to be doing on the day-to-day because we have so much student involvement and so much support from the students. And that's a reality of having high quality students, as well as like more people than you ever had before, so to speak. So I think that's crucial that you're changing the language and the scope to sort of support the students, and that experience comes to the surface as a primary focus for you at Humber, and that's amazing. And then obviously, like with the transition for the CATA, moving into sort of first years doing a little bit more observation only, and then second years and so on and so forth. I don't see that as a negative. You know, I actually see that as a really a great opportunity to have people get their feet wet without feeling overwhelmed or having you know, a little bit of anxiousness associated with going to a placement, and really having having the opportunity to get their feet underneath them without necessarily being thrown to the wolves. I mean, there's still a little bit of that where you can pop quiz them on the spot and those kinds of things, but their responsibilities in terms of like day to day and the operational stuff is a little bit less, and then they can really focus on the learning and the environment, right? Is that a fair sort of assessment of where things are and where they're going?
Yeah, definitely. You know, at Humber, all of the staff treat patients as well. So a portion of my days is spent treating, not just managing the area. And I think we want to continue to do that. But obviously, you know, with students coming in, they're going to have different experiences. But I actually think in the long run, they're going to learn things in school, practice it in school, and then come to us. And I think in the end, like the structure is going to be a better overall and a better experience for all students versus jumping headfirst, not knowing, you know, what you're going to be facing each year. So I do think the changes will be positive.
Yeah, no, I think it's an amazing opportunity for students, and I also love the idea of having both Sheridan and York. So you have two
Yeah.
programs. They're coming from a little bit of a different,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe a different curriculum or a different, not necessarily pedagogy, but certainly curriculum. And so you get this crossover, and then they get to learn with and from each other too, which I think is fantastic
Yeah,
for
it's
them.
really
And then
great.
yeah, yeah, and then they have, how many therapists do you have at Humber that they're working with during sort of placements?
So we have, oh my gosh, one,
How many full time? Like how many of
two,
you are in the clinic
there's
on a
two
regular basis?
full-time and we
Yeah,
have 4 part-time.
yeah,
That's
nice.
not including the Lakeshore campus as well.
Right. Okay.
Lakeshore would be an additional.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we do have quite a good support for the clinic, and then we have certified with both rugby teams. So one with the men, one with the women.
Yeah.
The OCAA's brought out a number of different rules recently where you do have to have a certified traveling and home games and tournaments, and so we've assigned more recently we've assigned therapists to the teams, which has
Right.
provided a bit more support for the students as well that we place with them. So
Right.
it's good. It's a good blend with the Sheridan and York. They learn from each other. We learned from the Sheridan program as well. I have one staff that's a Sheridan grad, and definitely a different perspective. But I think in the end, we all come together and we learn from each other, and it's definitely great overall. So
Yeah, that's awesome. And then to have, you know, 2 full time, 4 part time, and sort of have access to that many people, I think the students are definitely, you know, they can sort of start to pick and choose what resonates with them, what style they like, how they can start to build their own style based on component parts of you and component parts of Jen and component parts of everybody who's a part of things there. Do students at Humber, do they have the opportunity when they're doing their placement to work with the strength and conditioning department as well? How does that work at Humber? I guess with the placement, but more so broader than that, like with you and S&C, how do you guys blend that model? Like, what is your take on how that works best in your space?
yeah, so I mean, we talk with the strength team every single day. We have meetings every Monday to go over all of our athletes' injuries. The therapist that's assigned to their team is welcome to join their strength sessions. They can attend whenever they want. It's obviously not mandatory, but they're welcome to join. You know, I feel like I have conversations every day, and my student has conversations with me with the strength team every single day. So
Hmm.
it's definitely a great team approach. I think for me personally, as in my skills, I know where my strengths are, and my strengths aren't those functional return to play, you know, exercises and protocols. So I do rely on the strength team for that. I allow them to do that aspect, and that's my approach. So we definitely are, you know, in discussion regularly about tweaking their programs. We definitely want our athletes, even if they're injured, to be up in the strength sessions, no matter what, even if they're doing a core workout or a bike workout or whatever it is. They never, if they're injured, we try not to let them miss a session. So yeah, it's definitely an integrated model that we have, and we're working on it. It's not perfect. Communication can be difficult at times, but every year we kind of make tweaks to our protocols to sort of get that communication to be super clear.
Yeah.
And obviously incorporating the coach in some of those decision-making, you know, meetings we have as well.
Yeah, no, you bring up a couple things, and I'm just writing down a bunch of points rapidly over here so that I can make sure that I don't lose any of this. But you bring up something that I've had numerous conversations about in the past couple of weeks with multiple people from various angles and professions, and that's identifying sort of your areas of strength and your areas of where you might need a little bit of support, and being really open to saying, like, this is where I'm really good, really strong, kind of strong, not so strong. And having a support team in place where you can sort of feed off of each other, not to rely on them or be dependent upon them, but to sort of help you grow in those areas. And I think that integrative model for students to see, and for all of us to really admit, like, hey, this is where I'm not great. I need to find some people to work with that are really great there, so that we can unify and make it overall a better outcome for students and a better learning environment overall, especially in like the collegiate and the university settings, right?
I think originally when I first graduated, you know, I wanted to be the jack of all trades that could do everything, and, you know, I could treat whatever. But as time goes on, I sort of realize what my strengths are, and I really rely on the team that I have, even the other ATs that I work with. I know their strengths as well. So, you know, Jen and I will refer to each other. We have different manual skills. I definitely rely on, you know, an osteopath to do some work that potentially I can't. So it's knowing where my limits are and knowing what will help the patient. And I think it took some time to get there, but I really want to focus on improving the skills that I'm good at right now. And in the end, I think, you know, I can focus my energy towards that. And instead of trying to be like, know everything about everything, which is obviously overwhelming. So
at the best of times, it's slightly overwhelming. Yeah. I think that's amazing. And I also think that that students watching, listening, learning, and not even just students, but like students at life, to be a little bit vulnerable and admit that, you know, I'm not perfect, and I don't have to be everything to everybody. I mean, that's a crucial understanding in life, but definitely in this profession, right? Like, there's a ton of people out there. Some might say it's watered down in some elements. There's too many people. There's not enough work. But once you start to identify where you're strongest, you can sort of create your own niche in athletic therapy and in strength and conditioning and in whatever it is in the performance space. And navigate all the things that you've talked about, you know, support personnel or people that you can work with or depend upon for a good conversation or, you know, network. And that's kind of, again, coming back around to the impetus for Let's Chat was very much to network and open people up to you and your experiences and all the guests that have been on, to sort of, you know, we can shake the tree a little bit and rattle it around and see what falls down. And sometimes it's just as easy to pick the fruit up off the ground and use that, as opposed to like climbing to the top and trying to figure out, that high fruit. So some really good stuff already. And then you talk about communication and how important that is. Obviously, these days we're doing a lot of this, like Zooming and then Zoom overkill and then Zoom, whatever we're calling it, hangovers or fatigue or whatever it is from being on here all the time. But, you know, communication, and you mentioned protocols, and protocols are massively important so that people can go to a place and understand, you know, in scenario A, we're going to aim for this. But we also know that protocols can be on a piece of paper, and then something happens in sport or athletics, and like that piece of paper is sort of irrelevant. So then it comes down to what's your framework like, and how malleable are you in the communication aspects? And notably, like in early on in my career, I took a lot of direction when I was in certain roles. In other roles, I gave a lot of direction, and neither really worked when I look back on it, you know? And where there's open communication and we can work sort of back and forth, generating feedback with students, with personnel, with coworkers, colleagues, physicians, etc., you really build in a nice layered approach to things. And I think, like, for you to be in the position you're in makes complete sense to me, to be managing a clinic with students, with coworkers, with strength and conditioning, with all these people, because you do this so well. You know, you admit like the things that no, not a yeah. I just you know, you communicate so well with everybody, and you're so supportive of everything that's going on, and at the same time you're constantly building yourself to be, you know, the therapist that you want to be, you know. And so that's great, you know, constant evolution within yourself, and helping so many people along the way. Like I mentioned to you before everybody got on, signed in, or was permitted in, you know, as soon as we announced that, like, you're going to be the guest on Let's Chat, like a whole bunch of people started messaging me, like, oh, I got to get there. I got to remember about this one, or I'm going to pick this one up afterwards. Definitely. Like, you've influenced so many people. I mean, you've been at Humber since 2009, so you've been working with students since then, and if not, like, even before then, right? So, I'll thank you publicly for all that you've done for the profession of athletic therapy right now, because I feel like, you know, you influenced me early on. Mel was actually with football my first year at York, I think, when I was in the AT program, right? I was a student with you at football, a punk kid who thought I knew it all, I'm sure, at the time, and now just a punk who doesn't know anything, and but not a kid anymore. So so it's evolved. But yeah, you've done a massive job in terms of just remaining humble and really kind of growing what you do, and the professionalism within our world, our community, right? So it's great. And I talked to Anthony the other day, and he'll be a guest on here in the future, and he's a former strength coach at Humber, and he just had glowing reviews about what goes on there in terms of like how S&C and the athletic therapy side of things really kind of work together and back and forth, and you open so many things up. So what is the physical spacing? Because I haven't been there. I mean, if I was doing good research, I'd probably go there, but right now I can't anyway. What's the physical spacing like from clinic to S&C at Humber? Like, you're up, they're down, you're on the same floor, it's open. How does it look over there?
Yeah, the clinic's right across from the gymnasium, and the S&C is just up the stairs. So it's really easy to get to them. We just run up the back stairs, so it makes communication easy. You know, for me, I'd rather run up there and talk to them than send an email or a text or whatever. You talk about like protocols and frameworks and whatever, and yeah, we have those, but we definitely tweak them on a daily basis. And it does usually happen in a conversation with a coach or a conversation with the strength team, because it just allows you to kind of work through it a little bit better. And Anthony, it was like, and the team there, they pop by, they basically walk through the clinic to go up the back stairs to their office. And we encourage that. We're like, please come in and say hi, because it's easier, you know, for us to leave sometimes when we have patients. It's, you know, I don't mean to ignore the rest of the department, but sometimes it happens and we feel like we're on this little island. But so they kind of do the walkthrough, and Maui's here. He can vouch for me on that one.
A regular staircase usage, right? Just gonna make sure that those are dry and free of obstacles, I'm sure, going up and down and back and forth. I think that's amazing. And like that in person really makes a difference too, right? Like where you can take, you know, an email is easy, a text is easy, but at the same time, like taking the stairs or doing those things, it really shows kind of some additional commitment, you know, even just coming in person and being there to watch and communicate things directly.
But I
That's
also
awesome.
think
That's
there's,
great.
just to add to the whole, because the texting thing is what everybody does these days, and it's
Yeah.
great and all, and it makes life easier. But, you know, a lot of times we get ourselves in trouble with communicating injuries or that type of thing because there's no tone in a text. And I think that's where I do encourage, like, students, as you're learning. I know some coaches prefer certain ways of communicating, but just remember, like, when you are texting, there is no tone. And so it is good to kind of have that face-to-face when you can, because the message could be completely different, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I just read, I was reading something today about, I wasn't even reading it. It was some little video, I think, probably on some social media channel. It had to be legit. because everybody had their shirt on, so that was good. But it was talking about, you know, it's not necessarily the medium, but it's the message, right? And so that, not to counter what you said, but I kind of disagreed with that in our space, in that, you know, it's the medium, because you're exactly right. There's no tone, there's no way to read certain components of what you're sending, when there's an element of, you know, potentially like dialogue that needs to happen before we approve certain things to happen, or you know, all these kinds of things. And I came about it in my early years out of school, writing long-winded findings about pitcher A's shoulder, you know, and then we'd have to send it through the rehab coordinator, who was good enough to say, hey man, like, we need to cut this down, because if this goes to the GM and the GM reads this, he's going to think, like, you have to think about this in layperson's terms, and lay this out in a non-wavering kind of fashion, like facts, 3 sentences, cut it off. And you're exactly right when it comes to communicating some of these things. Plus then we have, you know, privacy rules and laws and all the things that we have to consider when we're shifting and moving information. So some really great points that just from listening to you speak, that come to my mind, and just I'm jotting all these things down as we move. You guys also have a bunch of other professionals, right? Like, built into your care team. Without naming names, I guess, but like credentials, you know, from sport med docs all the way down. What do you have access to in your clinic or your referral network overall?
Yeah, so Dr. Shukla comes in once a week. I know he goes to York as well. He comes to us, then goes to York. So he's there once.
As long as he comes, as long as he gets to you first before York.
Exactly.
he's still choosing you first.
We're actually alternating now, so depends on the day.
Okay. Yeah, he's trying to play the politics.
Yeah. So he's with us once a week. We do have a podorthist that comes in, you know, every other Friday. We have a massage therapist that works out of our back office as well. And that's our team right now. We in the past have had an osteopath. And are continuing to look for someone, but obviously COVID is happening, so that's limiting us a little bit. So yeah, that's our team. And then obviously our certified ATs that have sort of multiple credentials as well. Yeah,
awesome. That's great. And then, so there's no sort of barrier, right? In terms of what, if an athlete needs something, the idea is to get them what they need, and not necessarily to have them see you because you're the athletic therapist, right? This is what I try to communicate on a regular basis, is like this idea of ownership of athletes. And I see a lot of it on social media, like, my athlete is doing this, my athletes, they're not anybody's, you know, anybody's, what's the word I'm looking for?
Possession.
Anybody's like, possession or property. But at the same time, I get it. Like, people are following certain things. But, you know, your role there as managing all of that's going on, how does referral work, and how do you guys sort of manage the intake process, and then getting athletes and you know, students to the right personnel?
Yeah. So we're fortunate enough, we do have a sort of a reception desk, and we do have a receptionist that works for us.
Nice.
So she's sort of the intake, and she's the housekeeper, and kind of directs people accordingly. I mean, we try to fill our student therapists first. We definitely want them to be full. They're here on placement, they're learning, but we definitely, the certifieds try to take on the more complicated cases. So we'll deal with the concussions, like treatment of concussions and any sort of more complicated cases. At Humber, it does get really busy, and so we don't have an issue with, you know, not enough patients coming in for treatment. So they do get dispersed amongst each therapist. But how we've done it is Jen and I have split the teams, and so I oversee volleyballs, women's and men's soccer, and golf, and she oversees the other side, so basketballs, baseball, softball, and then we have our rugby therapists, and we kind of support badminton overall. So we've split, so we oversee those teams, and obviously we oversee the students that are working with those teams. So that has kind of streamlined our processes. And we've done that over the past, how many years? Maybe only 3 years we've done that, 3 to 4. They all blend together. But, yeah, and we felt like,
except for this one. This one's brand new. Now it's just like,
yes, we'll remember this year. So that's actually really helped us streamline our patient flow. And it helps us with our communication with S&C, communication with coaches. So that's kind of been the best thing that we've done so far to sort of organize people in the clinic.
Yeah, no, I think it makes sense, and it's fluid, I'm sure, in terms of, who's coming to you for what and who's going to Jen for those other sports. But then also, like, clinically, they're getting crossover between you and her and everybody else that's there, right? In terms of their learning access. Yeah, that's great. So coming to where you are now, managing and overseeing all of this at an institution with some high level sports and some high level practitioners and students and educating, like, there's a lot. You've taken on a lot. So at what point did you figure like this was something you wanted to do? Not the profession now, but like the role that you're in. Was that always kind of on the radar, or this sort of like, as you went along, this kind of developed as an interest? Or just kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, so the opportunity came about, and I was definitely interested right away. Our department was overseen by our associate director, and he's amazing, but he's obviously not a healthcare provider. And so the thought of having a healthcare provider oversee our area and really understand our area was huge for me. We definitely saw some gaps that were happening, and we knew that needed to kind of be figured out at some point. And our director was sort of pulled in so many directions that he didn't have the ability and obviously the knowledge, and he'll say this, he didn't have the knowledge to sort of support us as we needed. So we were kind of running ourselves, but now that in this position, the position does have a treatment component to it. And honestly, I don't know if I would be as excited about it if it didn't have that treatment component. I do feel like, to be able to manage a space, you should be working in that space. And my passion is treating patients. So I was excited that was part of it. It's definitely a busy job, and I'm still figuring out how to manage everything. But I think my team is so supportive, and we work together, and obviously we all know our roles, and so far so good. So it's been really great, and obviously every year has been a challenge. So this year is a new challenge, but I'm excited to support the team, and I think they like the fact that there's somebody that understands what they do also.
Yeah, no doubt about like having, what a good move on their part, a big move on the part of the college to sort of let you guys have reign in terms of, what you need and how what's going to work best, right? Like, that makes sense. You're in the space, you understand it, you're there every day, and you're driven to succeed and run something that's beneficial on so many levels. So that's fantastic that presented itself that way, and that it's worked out the way that it has. The college and the university rules, like, these are jobs that when we're going through, everyone's like, when I'm done, I'm just going to take Mel's job. Like, that's the ideal job for me, right? But I think, again, like, coming back around to the messaging, is this takes time, and it takes evolution of you in terms of your skill set, in terms of your hands-on skill set, how you develop your communication style. You take on lots of experiences along the way and kind of build in the moments that you're in, and then you end up where you are, but not straight out of the gate, So it's taken a while. But it wasn't like you were striving for that always. You've had a ton of great opportunities and amazing experiences, including now working with Soccer Canada, right? So you work with the women's national team. Maybe just kind of just fill us in on what that role looks like, and pre-COVID or COVID or whatever, regular sort of stuff, and sort of like how that came about, and connections that you made, and sort of your role with Soccer Canada.
Sure, yeah. So in, I guess it was April 2018, they were looking for a massage therapist to travel with the team. So I heard about the position, applied for the position, and then got accepted to go on one of their camps in France as a sort of trial period. So they took me on. I was their third therapist, so I was a support therapist, and my role was more massage therapy. So there was physiotherapist and athletic therapist, Helen Holubeck at the time, and then myself. And so that first camp was a trial period. And I did do more so post-training recovery was my role. And so I made it through, and they asked me back. And so I've been with them for 7 trips now. I was with them for the World Cup qualifier last year in 2019, and then a pre-camp for the Olympic qualifier this year. I did do a camp recently where my role expanded a little bit, and I was doing a little bit more AT work and RMT work. So I had the opportunity to work with some of the athletes and their injuries, and put together some rehab protocols. So that was, I was really nervous going into that particular camp in my new role. The expectation is super high, and your protocols should be on point. Otherwise, I'm not sure I would be asked back. So I think it went really well, and I really enjoy traveling with that team. It's definitely a lot of work, and the high performance aspect of it is very eye-opening. And the first few camps, I was just blown away at how much commitment those athletes have, and wake up every morning, and the protocols they need to follow, and the commitment to their training. So it's been an amazing experience, and I feel like I can bring some of that back to Humber at a different level. But it definitely puts my job into perspective a little bit, and so it's been an amazing opportunity so far.
A nice blend with sort of what you're doing at Humber and then there, and I don't know, like trial in France with the women's national team and placement at Humber with Mel. Like, it's the same thing, right? It's an opportunity to not necessarily showcase yourself, but really kind of show your dedication, not necessarily prove where you're at, but show where you're at in an environment that really matters. And there are some high stakes, and there is some people watching, and those go a long way, right? So for students, and for anybody who's taking on an internship, there's always opportunities to make networks and make networks grow, make connections with people, with athletes whoever athletes, other practitioners, etc. So it's nice that you kind of had that trial in France. I'm sure that was great, although there probably wasn't too much time away from what you were what your job and your role was. But but you sort of, that's it, right? Like, that's the way in. You got to get the experience in order to get the experience, and then once you have the experience, you turn it into a valuable sort of commodity as somebody who works with high quality athletes on a regular basis on that national and international stage. Not that you don't at Humber, but and then you touch on like some of the things that you are. You mentioned with your role at Humber, if there was no sort of like treating component, you probably wouldn't be in that role. And then it really, like, your eyes light up, you get excited and passionate about the sideline role with the soccer team, and then your ability to make programming and do these other things working with these high level athletes, and kind of be blown away by their dedication, but at the same time recognize that your level of dedication matches, if not exceeds, that from a clinical standpoint. So it's really cool to see that in you, and just like, that's the best part about what we do, I think, is like when you find those component parts that are really where your passion really rings true and it comes out in you, like it's easy to go to work, right? That's a thing that makes it no longer really work, and just somewhere that you go to be your best, And we see that, like, I feel that in like your description of both the role with soccer and with Humber. It's amazing. And I have some recollection of that first year at York working underneath you. I think I have like one picture from back then, and then like short-term memory that is just not really great, or semi-short. Now it's long-term, I guess. But all of the students who work with you, as well as like colleagues who work with you, nothing but glowing reviews. And this isn't like a pump Mel's tire session, but that's the reality. Like, you've done so much good work, and you've been just like so consistent through the time that, like, any review, not that I'm reviewing you, but any review of sort of anybody working with you and people who, you have a bunch of students now, right? Who were students with you as interns, placement opportunities who now work for you, with you, right? With you at Humber. I think maybe all of them. I don't know. I don't know if all of them had you as a supervisor or not.
Not all, but most.
Some. Yeah. Which
Yeah.
is, again, like, that's great, right? Like, this is how it happens, and this is how we grow our profession and our network, by working with and amongst one another. So 15 years of figure skating, right? And Gus Candelas. So let's go back around. Let's
Oh,
go
geez.
back to one from where we started. Are you still in touch with Gus? And has he continued to be a mentor in your life?
Yes, definitely. I see him here and there in the AT world, but definitely, he's always a mentor to me. And obviously Cindy and Tracy at York, I mean, they took a chance on me just out of school, and hired me for the position with York football. And that was a big opportunity for me. And it
Yeah.
didn't, you mentioned it coming easy. Like it didn't all come easy to me. I worked the football. That's only how many months of the year. Back then it was just a contract. It
Yeah.
ended when the season ended and they didn't make playoffs. So it was
It ended fairly quickly.
October. So, I worked a bunch of, I just took opportunities as they came to me. So I worked for Donjoy doing bracing sales for a little while.
Yeah.
Actually learned a ton from that job. I was a terrible salesperson. I couldn't convince people to purchase things, so it didn't go well, but I definitely learned a lot about bracing, and I took all of that information that I learned, and when I was working private clinic for a few years in the city, I was their bracing, specialist. So
Right.
they would pay me an hourly rate and I would do their bracing. So in the end, that supported me in my clinical experience. And then I did work at an insurance company for a little while doing like MVA claims, which was not fun, and did it for a few months. Obviously it was in conjunction with working some clinical work that
Yeah.
just didn't fill my day. So I did that. And then in the end, the information I learned from that job, I ended up doing some administrative work at the clinic again that I was working at. They would pay me an hourly to do their MVA claims. And so in the end, I was, trying to create this, more full-time job at the clinic, and it did work out. And then I was fortunate enough a few years later to get hired on part-time at Humber. And I didn't get hired on full-time until I think it was 2014. So it was definitely, a few years in the making, but,
Yeah.
I just plugged it out and did what I needed to do. And I feel like all those opportunities ended up supporting me in the long run. So.
Yeah, and I again, like, crucial to understand, right? And I think these are messages that young therapists need to hear. These are messages that somebody like that's been in it for over 10 years and is now trying to do something new need to hear. Like, it doesn't just happen, and you have to stick by your values, your philosophies, and really identify, coming back again to earlier what you had touched on, your strengths, and identifying those and continue to enhance those, as well as addressing either by associating and working with or amongst people that can elevate those other realms. And you don't know it at the time, but all those MVA things that you hated doing actually built you into the person as a professional that you are, right? Helping you with the clinical side of things, helping you with data tracking, probably in some strange way helping you with like your protocol development and like things that you need to consider and all these things. So that's great. And when it comes to opportunities, going through the door is pretty much the only way, right? Otherwise you just end up wondering what could have been. So when it's there, you go through the door, check it out, take it as an opportunity, and then go from there. It's crazy times right now, right, with COVID and all these things that are happening. And I've had a couple students reach out that have just finished but can't write their exam. And I don't know if anybody's reached out to you, but this is a great talking point for all of us to consider as people who are certified, or as people that are students in those roles, or have people that like this in our lives, right? Like, this is a time where we can really support each other. So anyway, I don't know if you have had anybody reach out, or if you've given any advice in terms of waiting for the exam, and if you do, feel free to share, or not, we can do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's definitely tough time right now, but I think it's just, they definitely can look at opportunities that they can work with right now until that
Hmm.
time comes. And that's kind of
Yeah.
why I brought up some of those jobs I did that, maybe weren't the best or what I really wanted to do right now or at the time, sorry, but in the end, it'll support them in some way or another. So staying connected as best you can, keep
Yep.
your skills up, you know, you try to do, even if it's just some support kin work for the time being, so you're still connected. I
Yep.
think that's all important. And, it's tough. It's definitely not an easy time, that's for sure. But so many people in these odd positions right now. So you just have
Yeah.
to, stay positive, right?
That's it. That's it. And then like listen and participate in Let's Chat on a weekly basis. Those are also good things because I've had a great time sort of chatting with you. And I don't know, it's almost it's been like 45 minutes already, so I'm just keeping cognizant of the time in that everybody's giving up their time. But like these chats have been so rewarding, and this one already has. I'm at not that this is a running tally, but it seems to be. I report this on a regular basis, but I'm at 3.5 pages of notes already, and this is going to turn into some kind of book at some point. It's not going to be legible, but there's going to be a whole bunch of things on pages. One of them says trial in France, do this. I don't know what that's going to be all about, but I'm going to do that if there's an opportunity to do a trial in France with whatever comes up. But all of these things make for opportunity, right? And so networking with people, listening to students, talking with long-term ATs, people who are ATs that have other credentials associated with them as well. This is an area for you where you have multiple credentials, right? Like you did your athletic therapy, and you also have RMT, and you have kin, and you have acupuncture, and these other things. So do you feel like those really have enhanced your outlook, your perspective, as well as your skill set? And I mean, you did them gradually, right? You didn't do them all at
Yes.
once
No,
to
no.
achieve something. Yeah.
Yeah. So I originally did RMT because I was working private practice at the time and wanted to expand my patient load. And so,
Hmm.
I was struggling as an AT at that time to fill my patient load.
Yep.
Had a conversation with Gus, and he brought up the RMT program. And so I did do that. And it was sort of aligned, like that was when I was hired at Humber. So it was interesting, the timing of that.
Right.
But I did start a private practice after that, and fortunate enough to do it out of Humber. They have a little back room that we work out of. And so I was able to sort of start my private practice after doing my RMT, and I supported the staff of the college. So that definitely created, another job for me. And then a few years later, I did the acupuncture program, which I thought that's one of the best programs I've ever taken. It's changed the
Yeah.
way I treat people. I
Yeah.
use acupuncture on a daily basis because of the neurological component and how it resets the body. So
Hmm.
I do find it like it has impacted my treatment protocols like immensely. So that has changed my approach quite a bit. And obviously, and the anatomy review was unbelievable in that one. And just, the neural pathways and really understanding what nerve functions for what muscle is, always a good review. But I think it was excellent in that program. So
Yep.
that in
Yep.
particular has really changed the way I approach things. And then the FST, if anybody gets it, that is another really great course as well. I feel like I really enjoy those two particular approaches, and I'm not sure I'm going to take a lot of other continuing ed at this point. I really want to kind of perfect the acupuncture skill a little bit further. That's kind of my niche, and
Hmm.
obviously movement in relation to that. So yes, all of those things. It's a lot of additional education, but I did it over time, and they all have impacted my treatment. Like, what do you call it? Philosophy, I guess.
Yeah, no, let's call it what it is. Absolutely. You're changing your vision and your philosophy of how you want to approach, human movement, athletic prowess, performance, whatever we're calling it. But I think it's great, and it's an amazing talking point because like continuing education is crucial. But at the same time, there's so much out there, right? Like there's so many courses out there and everybody's offering something, and it's really trying to identify what resonates with you in the current state, and what's going to enhance your understanding by either challenging, supporting, or, you know, giving you a new skill set. And then hopefully beyond the skill set, it's going to challenge you to think and question why and what and how you're doing things. Because I think for me, those are the biggest talking points in terms of taking courses. And you talk about contemporary acupuncture, that's a magnificent course. I would agree with everything that you said. You know, I had the opportunity to do that and absolutely loved it. I've heard a lot about FST, but haven't done it. There's some really great stuff out there in terms of, you know, courses. And so looking at that with with a little bit of I don't know, critical eye, I guess, at the continuing education that you're doing, not to be trendy and do what everybody else is doing, but doing the things that align with your thought process and or people that you might relate with, I think is crucial. And so you've
I
touched
think,
on those already, and like, yeah.
yeah, I was just going to say, you know, coming out of school, I think I really wanted to take like every single course. And I think I took a couple courses that sort of were over my head. And I really should have just got my hands, you know, into things a little bit before I just like, oh my God, I got to take this, you know, like just get your hands going, you know, get your feeling, get your touch, and then kind of bring those courses in, because in the end, you'll be able to apply them much sooner. And, you know, and otherwise you're just kind of throwing your money away if you can't apply some of those things right away. I encourage like students to figure out what niche they want to be and what direction they want to go before, just like I said, trying to be the jack of all trades and knowing everything and taking every course and all that. So.
Yeah. And that comes again kind of with experience. Like Chris Robertson was on here last week, and he was just kind of talking like about also the art side of things. Is like, as we get older, we start to understand or more mature within our practice and our approach, we start to understand really what it is we want to do and how we want to affect change. And there's plenty of ways to do it. So there's not one right way to do it. So really trying to identify those things and not struggling to, because sometimes you take courses and they're great, but there's no application, but there's still some learning points or some talking points. Or you take another course and you want to apply everything and those kinds of things. So I think it's a great talking point for all of us in terms of where we're going and how we're going to continue to evolve as a profession. So that's great. COVID, let's jump into that really quickly, because you had some big news released, this week, in that your clinic is reopening at Humber. Is that right?
Yes.
Right.
We are open as of Tuesday this week, limited capacity. We're only doing 2 days a week to start. So we're super excited to be back.
Yeah,
it's going to be very interesting. A lot of obviously changes, protocols and whatnot. So, but it's a start, and we're already fully booked for this week. So,
of course you are. Yeah. Athletes are still athletes, so that's a good thing.
Yes.
I think it's interesting with all the protocols and stuff too, because aside from like maybe spacing your tables out a little bit more and wearing a mask indoors, the paramedical or like the healthcare practices don't really have to make that much of an adjustment, other than, you know, pre-screens and self-reporting and having all the things that have been put in place, because like sanitation is kind of a thing in clinical spaces, right? Like we need to clean things, we need to spray things, we need to, you know, I mean, probably the number of hugs you give your athletes or like high fives and stuff like that, that's gonna be minimal. Not that you hug people, but I'm a big hugger, I guess. I don't know why they said that, but anyway, those different things, like it's not drastically different, or am I assuming that
No, like when I was putting together the plan for our reopen plan for just it's 2 therapists, it was fairly easy. I mean, we're lucky in our space. We have the ability to space out. We've created 2 stations. I mean, I think even if we weren't in COVID, one person would treat on the one side, the other person would treat on the other side. I think for us, it was more so what the college required of us and some of the protocols from there, like checklists, and just making sure that, you know, we're documenting what we're doing. And I think the other part is like access points is what's super confusing in a big facility. So for us, we are accessing through an emergency door for our limited capacity opening. But when we, in September, if and when we open regularly, it's that whole access point through our whole facility that's becomes challenging, you know, like
Right.
where are they coming from? Where are they entering? And so, yeah, I think like day to day in the clinic, we, like you said, we clean, we're just going to have to, you know, document our cleaning. But it's more so if your space is kind of in a big facility, it makes it a little bit trickier with the flow of people.
Right. And then obviously, I don't mean to minimize it. Like, there's definitely some drastic changes. I just mean like specific to the clinic, right? Like
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
going on inside the clinic isn't drastically different, but
No.
obviously in a college or a university setting, that's thousands of human beings, potentially, you know, walking in and out of places and picking things up and putting them down. And then, I don't know, all the things that happen, on university and college campuses. So yeah, that's great. Okay, so Humber has a bunch of sports. You oversee some. Is there sort of like some I don't want to say preferences, but do you have like some really high quality things that stand out in terms of memories of your time at Humber so far? It doesn't have to do with specific sports, but just in terms of therapy, you know, things that were really rewarding or I don't know, put you on the spot.
Oh, geez. That's a good one. Huh. Um,
It's just that
wow.
everyday smile when the students walk in from Sheridan in York that really just you don't need any more than that. Well, we can leave it at that. That's perfectly okay. Yeah,
Well,
so it's such a rewarding profession. You know, like on a daily basis, you get to help people and you get to work with other human beings. I feel like you don't need to highlight, you know,
well,
specifics, but I don't
yeah,
know. Yeah,
I'll just like for me, it's not so much the winning of the medals or the like we're very fortunate. Our teams do quite well, so we do quite a bit of travel for provincials and nationals. But I
yeah,
feel like for me, it's the little goals I get with my patients. You know, like the concussion athlete who's been struggling for months, who played in the provincial game and it was her last year, her fifth year,
yeah.
and she
Nice.
played
Yeah,
one set. Like that for me is like what excites me. So that's an
yeah.
example, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I think those are it, right? Small moments that we collect through this lifetime, not the things and the stuff. So we get so many in this profession, to you know, with the interactions we have, and I think I don't know, yeah, I just feel like that the two-way reciprocated relationship in terms of you know what we get from working with athletes and what they get from working with us goes so far beyond yeah, medals and trophies and travel um, to different places throughout the province and the country. It goes back again to your point, and like it's that communication and that depth and relationship that we really build within our practice. So great points and specific enough for sure to highlight, you know, just one very real scenario that like you know everybody wins in that situation. So all right, we're pressing an hour, so I'm going to open this up for anybody who has any questions for Mel. Please do so with either your mic or into the chat box down here, and I will filter it over. Again, Melanie Evans is our guest tonight on First Star Let's Chat session 34. Next 10 members to sign up for membership for CEUs will receive a free roll of mobility tape from Mobility Tape, the only heat activated kinesiology tape. So that's that one. If anybody's got anything, please feel free and I will filter it over. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going. And I've heard myself for almost this whole hour too. So let's do it. Yeah. On a day-to-day, Mel, what does your schedule look like personally, like on a regular sort of maybe a week, but like let's pick a random day and say Tuesday morning after, not Monday morning after a weekend of events for potentially for athletes and things. What does Monday look like for you in the collegiate setting?
Yeah, so Mondays, I usually block off the morning in case there's any injuries from the weekend. So I'm usually
Right.
in early on Mondays because Jen and I kind of alternate morning, evenings. And so Monday morning is usually sort of catch up morning, emails for 2 hours. So I'll block my time off from 8 to 10. And
Yep.
then I have meetings with our high performance team every Monday.
Yep.
I meet with my fitness coordinator. I meet with her as well. usually Monday or Wednesday, and then afternoon is usually treating. So I'll usually see, it depends, 3 to 4 people, depending on a Monday. So, and then I leave a little bit earlier on Mondays, but maybe check into practice, say hi to coaches before I go. Yeah, that's a typical Monday.
All right, nice. That's great. I think it just to give some people an idea of what's going on for you in your role. Like I think that active role is also critical. And I knew you were doing it, but I didn't know you were doing it. But like getting out of the clinic and being active in the S&C world, in that realm, in that space, getting out to the fields to see coaches, like that's a massive part of I think what you do in the collegiate setting, right, is to be involved, and in more than being involved, like be invested in the entirety of the process.
Yeah, it's great. Like we, our soccer team does every August, they'll do a training camp. And, one of the therapists will always, like I'm with soccer, so I'll go and I won't stay for the whole training camp, but I'll definitely pop in. And Jen will do the same with her baseball team. So it is nice to be able to connect that way. And we do cover off our team's games. And so you get that communication happening with the student and with the coaches, and then you create that relationship. And then it's kind of fun working with the team. Like you're not there every single day, but you definitely feel like you're a part of that team environment as well, which I do enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the best of all worlds.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I was going to. I think Jack, you got a question?
Yeah, actually, I have a question. Thanks, Mel, for your insight. Very great. So I'm just wondering if you have any preferences for types of therapy. Like it seems like you have experience working with osteopaths, and you're big into acupuncture right now. And I'm wondering if you have any like favorites that you think would be like the best for everybody, or if you think it's a combination. Like my difficulty right now is like there's so many professionals, and where to look is the challenge I find.
Yeah, good question. Yeah, that's a loaded one. I think for me, the evaluation will tell me where I'm going to go. So if I'm evaluating someone, the assessment is going to tell me sort of what that person needs. So I think it's important to find someone that's going to do a detailed assessment of your injuries. And whether that's an osteopath, a physio, AT, it depends. But like I said, I like to refer when it's necessary. I think certain therapies are important to progress a person forward. But again, it just depends on the injury and depends on the detailed assessment. But I'm sure some of us here can refer you to some good therapists.
That's it. I think you touched on so many things. Yeah, no, it's great. And so like the network of people, yeah, the network of people that we can all access and house, and not sort of turn into a competition for clientele, where you have somebody central like Mel, or in the Humber setting or University College setting, where an athlete comes in and you kind of have access to a well-rounded integrated model where you can share and care and do those things all in the same without really having to worry about it is fantastic. Definitely no one technique is going to go over with everybody, and the assessment being a crucial component to building out what things are going to look like. Anybody with another question? Otherwise, I got one more for you, Mel, before you go. It's going to be a challenging one, so I'm going to put you right on the spot here in a second. Yeah, if there's nothing else, I was going to ask just in terms of like advice for students in waiting, advice for new ATs, and then advice for ATs that have been in it for a long time. And you can take that and spin it any way you want. We've talked about advice for students in waiting already. You've definitely talked about sort of new ATs and doing Con Ed. What advice would you give for athletic therapists that have been in it, or professionals in any realm really, that have been in their game for quite some time? Yeah, in terms of how their outlook or the way that they go about their daily business.
Yeah, I think, it is important to reach out and continue to work with your your colleagues. Like, for example, like just Jen and I, we bounce things off of each other, and my other therapists in the clinic. I think we talked about this before, but knowing your limitations, knowing your weaknesses. Like, I know certain areas of the body are my weakness and I need to work on it. So I also know therapists that are really good at that area, and they might not be an athletic therapist. So I sometimes will reach out and, ask for a little like one-on-one session to learn a little bit more about a certain area. So I think it's continuing to kind of reflect on yourself and figure out where you need to improve. And it might not be just from a therapy perspective. I know for me, just in my new role as a manager and, overseeing staff, learning to sort of give real-time feedback versus, waiting for an evaluation, like for a student as well. Real-time feedback, I think, is important. And also asking for feedback on myself. And so like a 180, what can I do to support you? What can I do to make your job easier? I've learned that as well. And I think, laying out some expectations for people that I'm working with as well, and then expectations that they have of me, can kind of make the environment a little bit, more positive to work in. So I think not underestimating some of your colleagues and their knowledge and what they can support you with. So hopefully that answers that question.
No, that's a fantastic answer. And the self-reflection piece is obviously, I've shared it with you a little bit. It's a huge part of where I'm at, and the time away from Canada and the athletic therapy profession per se for me has really led me to go a little bit more introspective and start to identify who it is that I am, the vision, the philosophy, those kinds of things. And that leads me to a nice little plug here. So appreciate the self-reflection piece. I'll be leading a practitioner's retreat workshop from the 24th to the 26th of September at the Nottawasaga Resort and Inn. Details can be found on the website, or you can reach out at any point. And really it's a look at, it's a retreat workshop for practitioners of all walks of life, any model of care, looking at the retreat component being for you, the human being, and the workshop for you, the practitioner. So really beginning that work or continuing that work on self, because once we can identify, vulnerabilities, strengths, weaknesses, all of the above, we can really start or continue the path of growth. And that really is resonated outward. And Mel, you've come so far from the time that I knew you as somebody overseeing me in football to your roles now, and it's amazing to have you on as a guest and to have you as a colleague and a mentor and a friend here within this profession and within this scope of practice. So I'll thank you again for all that you've done for myself in my career, and for everybody that you've impacted along the way, and all the athletes you continue to work with. And I look forward to getting together and putting our heads together on a few things in the future, hopefully. But really wanted to thank you for your time. And it's been over an hour. We could be on here for 3, but let's call it a night. And thank you again. Melanie Evans has been our guest, session 34 of Let's Chat.
Thank you so much for having me. This is such a great platform. And thanks to those who've attended. I know some of you.
Yeah. And those of you picking it up on the archive, hopefully on YouTube, as well as podcast when we get it over to that realm as well. So thank you for attending, everybody, for being here, as always, for giving your time, your space, and allowing us in to have these conversations with you as a part of them. It goes a long way in the growth of all of us. So thank you once again, and I'll wish you good night, Mel. As always, a pleasure, and I will talk to you and see you soon. All right.
Okay. Take care.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
All righty. Good night. Thanks again for being here. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being a part of this community. Check us out online, firststartherapy.com. That's FIRSTAR therapy.com. Or email us with feedback, consult@firststartherapy.com, CONSULT@firststartherapy.com, on Instagram @firststar.therapy, and our podcast host @letschat.at. This is First Star Let's Chat, an athletic therapy podcast.